What is up, people? Matt here again. So this review is going to be pretty hype, even though a lot of it was kind of predictable, and I know we always have a go at Bleach for saying it is predictable, but the fact is it kind of is at times. You can kind of see where things are going, who's going to pop up and how things are going to play out. But that's not to say it's bad. It's just Kubo must know how we sort of want it to go and how we expect it to go, and that means that he can effectively orchestrate when to surprise us and when to keep us at our standard feelings. But first of all, unrelated, I ordered some Bleach figures. They're not like really expensive or anything, but they're pretty cool. So I actually ordered these and they came from China. So first of all we have Rukia, which is actually quite nice. Rukia's facial expression is actually probably the best of all of them. Even the little details kind of are quite nice. As you can see, she's got her 13th squad lieutenant badge on. So this is obviously Rukia post time skip. When she's become lieutenant of the 13th squad. So that's quite a nice one, and as I said, her facial expressions are quite nice. Now, interestingly enough, the next one, you don't see a lot of this, but it's actually Ichigo in his Fullbringer outfit. Obviously, he's got the substitute badge, and that's how his powers kind of manifested in this state. Now, there's actually Ichigo's. That's Ichigo's normal face, and there's actually his face with the Fullbringer. As you can see, there's the white. The white, well, I don't know what you call it, Ryatsu across his face, but it's quite nice. So as you can probably already tell, all these figures are actually post-time skip of characters, which is actually quite nice because a lot of the characters I prefer their post-time skip. And arguably, I'd say my favourite, although I'm a bit biased. You don't see many Bleach figures at all, but especially you don't see many figures of Renji. This is actually my favourite. Obviously, again, as you can see, it's post time skip Renji because he's got his maroon banner on, his hair's a bit longer, and it's just really nice. Interestingly enough, he hasn't got his Zanpakuto toe released, it's actually just in his sheathed form. But then again, I guess if he had Zabumaru released, it would make the figure quite a lot. It'd be hell to do. Although Rukia's is quite complicated, but with Zabumaru, it would be quite awkward to pose it, I suppose, unless you just had it facing downward. But I just really liked Renji's one. I think they've done him quite well. They've even got his wristband. They've got his wraps around his hands. Obviously, as you can see, he hasn't got his badge on because for some reason he doesn't wear his badge. Not quite sure why. I think it's the symbol that, you know, eventually he does want to surpass Byakuya. But he's still respectful as a lieutenant. You know, he's not like a renegade or anything. But anyway, they were just some cool figures I bought from China. I am looking at another one, which is actually Ichigo in his just Bankai form, so that'd be quite good. But anyway, let's get on with the actual chapter review. So obviously we've got 664, The Gift. So it's been a while since I reviewed the last chapter, but basically Yoruichi did damage to Askin, forced him to go into his vault standing. But now the 5 minutes run out, so she's basically immobilised again. But obviously Kisuke's there, so he's stepping up to the plate. Askin even says, you know, if you had more time, you would actually be able to figure out a way to combat the Ryatsu changing in his vault standing. Because in his vault standing, he says that he can like change it in seconds. But obviously Yoruichi is out of the fight anyway, so that's all mute. And he actually says that it's a mute point. So basically, Askin's going off on one, a typical sort of I know everything, you know, verbal diarrhea of the mouth, as the scientist type figures generally do. Obviously, there's Siloperos, Mayuri, Aizen, Kisuke, Askin. They're all sort of scientists, and they can go off on one a bit. Now, Askin's Volstanning's it is literally a scientist thing. It's got like DNA shit and like weird, symbols and like zigzags and all that type of stuff. It's quite a nerdy sort of vault standing, but it's also it's kind of what you would imagine his personality is like. As he said, he's a poison taster. His personality is quite poisonous. But basically, shit gets quite real with Askin versus Kisuke. Askin puts up a kind of a brick border, which it's basically impenetrable, or at least he says that it's inescapable. It's totally impossible to get out. Now, obviously, Askin is fully aware of Kisuke's intelligence and his schemes and his plans, and he tries to get information out of Kisuke, but Kisuke wouldn't tell anyone shit unless he thought there was no way that he would get beaten. So he does keep stum pretty much, but he questions Askin's intentions. So Askin is pretty intelligent, and Kisuke recognises that. So obviously he's quite intrigued why Askin is like this, and Askin gives a pretty not a typical answer. He's basically just like, I just want to see what happens after all this shit goes down. And then Kisuke kind of backhands him and says, well, a real scientist would want to do it with his own hands, which is quite interesting because Askin said to Kisuke, surely you would understand. And then Kisuke's like, I'm not really interested in that. Mayuri's more sort of that. But even then he says, Mayuri would want to do it himself as well. So Askin's a bit shocked by that, to be honest. But after that it gets a bit interesting. So basically, Askin does this attack with this massive ring. It's kind of like a Destructo Disc from Dragon Ball Z, but it's just a normal kind of wedding ring sort of thing. And it's pretty massive above his head, and he shoots it out and it disappears. And then it reappears and it's clipped to Kisuke's eye. And then it just explodes. Straight out explodes. And it turns out it's a death-dealing sort of ability, but instead of working all over the body, it concentrates in that one area, and the potency obviously gets massive. So basically, Kisuke's eye, it's gone. Okay, the eye's gone, and from what I can tell, both eyes get affected by it because it's one. So basically, Kisuke's effectively sort of blind, kind of. But the thing that everyone has been hyped about is obviously Kisuke's basically backed into a corner and Bankai. So it's apparently called Guanyin Brakai Benahime Atarame. It's basically Inquisition of the Crimson Princess of the Doors of the Avalokitesvara. So Kisuke was basically backed into a corner and he's been forced to go Bankai. Now, before the abilities of this Bankai were actually revealed in the next chapter I'm going to review, I sort of kind of guessed what the ability was, although it was kind of I always thought that Kisuke's Bankai wasn't really going to be more offensive. I always thought it was kind of a support and healing Bankai. And I'm kind of right and I'm kind of not right. Now, interestingly enough, I actually said that I thought Kisuke's Bankai was going to have the sort of properties of Neferpito from Hunter x Hunter and her Dr. Blythe. And I was kind of right. But anyway, let's get on to the next chapter, which is obviously when Kisuke reveals his Bankai. Now, interestingly enough, as I said in the previous video, we actually had a week off because apparently Kubo wasn't very well, so we had to wait an extra week. But we're back now. So as previous, obviously we start off with Kisuke Bankai. Askin's like, what the fuck's going on here? Which is understandable. However, so basically the chapter's called The Princess Dissection, and this is where it kind of gets a bit interesting. So Askin's a bit shocked because obviously no one has any intel on Kisuke's Bankai because he hasn't used it in so long. Nobody has any info on it. We don't even know if anyone else knows of its abilities. Maybe Yoruichi, maybe even Yoruichi doesn't know what his Bankai actually is, although I think she probably does because obviously he mastered it in 4 days. We didn't master it, he learned it in 4 days like Ichigo in the training ground where Yoruichi and him trained, so I'm assuming she knows. But as Askin said, he said, what's this Bankai about? No intel. And he's like, this is the first time I've used it in front of people like this. And he's like, so what does it possess? So he's trying to get some information out to combat it. Kisuke's not saying fuck. He's got poker face. So he ain't saying anything. But you know, Askin's a bit jokey still. He's a bit still confident. He's like, well, I figured I'd try and see how it is. You know, seeing his face in this is enough to make me soil myself. So he's, you know, he's being pretty blunt. Kisuke's just like, well, don't worry, you're gonna face it soon enough anyway. So it appears to have an ability. Something goes around Askin's arm, and he moves away from Kisuke. And apparently, this has a sort of area of effect with Kisuke's Bankai. But it turned out it was actually starting to tear open his hand. So he obviously got away from there. So, as I said, Kisuke's Bankai's ability is actually revealed, so it turns out it's actually the power to reconstruct or restructure anything that's been touched. So it's kind of like Dr. Blythe's ability with Neferpito in Hunter x Hunter was kind of healing, but it also was sewing, and it was a puppet sort of thing, so it's kind of similar at least in idea. So Kisuke's face has been sort of restructured. He's got scars and it's been sewn up and everything, and his eyes are actually back now. So he's regained his eyesight, and he just stabs Askin, slashes him at least, and Askin's a bit shocked that Kisuke can see again, and he's like, well, they've been reconstructed so I can see. And is that see? There's a panel here where it looks like Kisuke's hands have sort of been... Have they been cut? So it looks like Kisuke's kind of cut off his own fingers, sort of, and he's sewn them back on. I'm not quite sure why that is. No, I'm not quite sure why that actually is. Maybe it was to actually attack Askin, so make you kind of cut all his hand up for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. But Askin's on the back foot now, and he's not very happy because he said anything but this is just going to turn into a battle of brute force versus brute force, and Askin isn't one for direct. He's not really a bruiser. He's a poisoner. He's sort of he's a kind of stand back sort of person. He likes to be in the background and do the stuff. But he's still pretty confident because obviously there's the massive poison gift ball that they're in, still poisoning Kisuke naturally. But Kisuke's kind of Kisuke's sort of taking it a bit personal now. He's like, this is pathetic. Do you really think I'd fall for shit like this? You know, I'm Kisuke motherfucking Urahara. And Askin's basically fucked. Okay? He's just fucked now. Next panel, fucking fist through the fucking chest. Asuka's just like, what the fuck's going on? Someone's just fucking gone straight through my chest. And he's like, you kept saying that this ball was inescapable, but you didn't say it was impenetrable. And as some of us thought, from outside of the ball, so basically not everyone was inside the ball, someone has broken inside the ball without asking, knowing. Kisuke's Bankai created a trail and someone followed it. Someone's just ripped Asuka's heart out of his chest. Nice typical thing there. Bit like Killua ripping that guy's heart out of his chest in the Hunter trials. And it turns out to be Grimmjow. Grimmjow's clearly broken into the gift ball and fucked Asuka. So obviously it wasn't too effective. Interestingly enough, he's actually in his Pantera form. It looks like Asuka's dead. He is, he's apparently not able to be killed. Obviously the Reiatsu kind of immunity, but he's just had his fucking heart ripped out. I don't think he can reconstruct. I don't think he can grow another heart. So I think he's dead. That's probably the end of the fight. We might get a few more panels sort of wrapping it all up. I'd be very surprised if the fight continues now. Asuka looks like he's fucked. But it was a pretty hype chapter. But as I said, it was predictable. Grimmjow had to come back on the scene somehow, and it was probably going to be at the end of this fight. So, is Grimmjow going to kind of try and catch up with the rest of them now? Or is he just going to sit back with Urahara, Yoruichi, and Yushiro? We don't know. I thought Grimmjow would go on and try and start another fight, but maybe he's sort of like he's chill. But that was a pretty good chapter overall. I thought both the chapters were pretty hype. We finally got to see Urahara's Bankai. We've been waiting for this for years and years. So another Bankai's been revealed. We've still got a couple more that I want to see personally. Obviously, you got Aizen's Bankai. We want to see that. We want to see Ichigo's new Bankai. I want to see Jushiro's Bankai. Kenpachi, I don't think he'll ever have one. Or maybe he'll have obtained it by the end of the series, but we might not even see it. Who else do we want to see? Ishin's Bankai, I really want to see that. I'd like to know the properties of Unohana's Bankai, though it appeared to just be poison, sort of, or blood, something like that. So, I mean, maybe we can have a flashback seeing the actual abilities of it. It's not urgent, but it would be quite nice. Overall, I'd say the top ones I want to see is Ishin's, Aizen's, and Yushiro's, though. Aizen's probably got a Bankai, okay? I don't for a second believe he didn't have one. I think he has one, but no one knows about it because obviously his hypnosis fucks with everyone. It's probably ridiculously OP. Yushiro's Bankai, I really want to see it. We might not ever see it, or we might see it in a flashback, which is still okay as long as we do get to see it. And obviously Ishin's Bankai, which would be quite nice. I'm interested to see if it is like Ichigo's and he transforms as well. That would be quite nice. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video for more Bleach. So I'm looking forward to it, and it'd be interesting to see where we go from here. Anyway, as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.